All right, here with head women's volleyball coach Angela Spoja. After a road trip this past week, a split on the road, you beat Stanislaus, and then you had a really wild match against Chico. Just kind of talk about the weekend and leading into this next week. You go back on the road again, so yeah, just kind of open discussion. Feel free to talk about this past week and practice.
I think our match against Stan, it went well. I mean, of course, you love when you get a win on the road, but I still feel that we're playing with too many unforced errors, and we need to clean that up. And I think inevitably against the Chico, that's what hurt us. We actually ended up counting up all of our unforced errors from the match, and it was something like 64. So we really have to clean up our side before we can even worry about the other side. And we will be working on that all week before we jump on the road again on Thursday.
And just, can you kind of compare the start of this season compared to the start of last season, as you kind of like a full off season and kind of get the program to where you'd like it to be? Just can you kind of explain the difference, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, the off season was great. We got to work on a bunch of small things. We added, a new setter to the mix, and a middle, and then a DS, and I think that definitely helped us with the setting aspect of the game. We did have a full season this season. So last season, if you remember, we only had one preseason tournament when we're allowed the 2 preseason tournaments. And so we only had 4 matches under our belt before we started playing. And this year we had 8, and we had won 3 of those. So I think that set us up for a little bit, to have a little bit more confidence going into our conference play. And I think that not just with the confidence, but also just working out some of the kinks, because we have so many new players. But I think we do feel confident, and we did feel confident coming in. We started our season off with 2 tough teams. You've got San Francisco, who's always very scrappy, and then you've got San Bern, who's been on the top for a very long time. And so I think we had a good showing against San Francisco, went 5 with them. Didn't have enough juice against San Bern, although we had control in both the first and second set in the beginning, and had trouble finishing, and then went 5 again with Stan, and then 5 again with Chico. So we're right there. We just need to make some adjustments.
And with all these matches going 5 sets, do you just kind of, even the ones you may not come out on top, do you feel like you're right on the cusp, and with those unforced errors, you guys are like within striking distance of becoming the team that wins not all of those matches, of course, but coming out on top more often than not?
I think anytime you're on the court longer, you're making strides toward being better. So when you're getting beaten 3, it's really hard to fight through things. I have to tell you that against Chico, there was a fight in us that I haven't seen before. So although nobody's happy with the loss, we could have rolled over in the 3rd set, and that's what we would have done last year, and we didn't, and we fought for every point. We came back and won the 3rd set, won the 4th set, and then just fell short in the 5th set. Again, a few unforced errors that in the 5th set you're just not allowed. So. And
that fight or competitive spirit, where do you think that comes from, or where did that stem from in Chico?
There's a few players that have the mindset that they refuse to lose. And I don't know, you tell me where it comes from. If I could find athletes like that all the time, I'd be recruiting them. But you have a few kids that refuse to lose, and they kind of drive the rest of us. And it's important to have those kids on the court.
And how do you embrace that kind of energy? Like as a coach, to kind of, you want to spread it as much as you can, I'm guessing. What do you do in that situation to kind of, I'm sorry if that's not a good way to illustrate.
No, it is. I know, like, kind of get people to jump on board, right? Mm-hmm. And we always say this too. We had Avelina just, she decided to kind of go crazy in that match, and I think she was motivated because her family was there, but she has that inner fire, that drive, and Kira does as well, and just like they want to do anything to win. There's a few others that do, and so I always tell the ones that have more of a struggle getting that energy or doing that, because not every player is going to be like that, is like, you got to jump on these people's backs and go with the ride, right? So we embrace it. We don't only embrace it, we try to amp it up. So
Coach, one thing I want to touch on is you mentioned those people that have that like fight and that spirit, competitive spirit inside of them. I believe when I spoke to you after the Stanislaus game on Friday, can you kind of walk me through what maybe Facalata and a couple of those other players what their mindset was going into that fifth set? Because I think when we spoke, you mentioned that they did not want to lose whatsoever, and she went on for 8 kills in that final set.
Yeah.
What was that like mindset or that dog that just came out in that final fifth set? Like, what was said between the team?
Yeah, you're gonna see it. You'll see it when Lena just flips a switch, and you can see it as a coach as well. And she just decides we're gonna win, and that's what she did in the stand game. And you see it in her face, and you see it in her body language, and she just turns up her athletic ability a notch. I am trying to harness that so that she can do that all the time, right? And not just in those moments. She hasn't had some of these moments like this in her athletic career yet, and to this date, because I think at ARC they pretty much walk all over people, you know, and so she's finding kind of more of an inner drive now, and yeah, we're gonna get there. So to kind of like turn that on a little bit sooner.
You have a game this Friday and Saturday, traveling again to Monterey Bay and then East Bay. What's something you're focusing on in practice this week to kind of, get ready for another, not only games on the road, but games against hard opponents?
We spent yesterday's practice, and then I spent all morning this morning. So yesterday's practice in film, just watching the Chico match, so we could show them the unforced errors and how the errors are happening. To try to control some of those, control what we can control on our side, right? And then I spent this morning with Kira going over literally point for point in our offense and discussing a balanced offense. I mean, when you have somebody that is on fire like Lena was, you want to feed them the ball, but you still throughout the match have to run a balanced offense, And so it was kind of like, how can we still do that, get our middles more involved, and also not make as many errors, especially in crucial moments.
And going back to the unforced mistakes, watching film with the players and going over what went wrong or what went awry, but how can you guys build upon that, or is it just kind of showcasing how it goes wrong, or do you think it's like repetition and playing with each other and gaining chemistry?
It is repetition, and it is playing together, but there's some things where, like we had a free ball and somebody decided last minute, so like one of our pins goes up to block and our middle decides it's a free ball and she backs off. Well, she backs off into the defense who's already set up behind her. That might not make a lot of sense to you guys, but for us, it's like that created an issue when she should have just stayed and blocked because that's what the pin did. And then we would have played that ball. And that was at a very crucial time in the fifth set. We got a free ball and we should have just, we should have pounded that ball, back at them, but we couldn't. And so just kind of looking at some of that stuff, like what was going through your mind in this moment, this is what we need to do, setting up the structure in these times, And I think a lot of it right now, because we're still really learning, that was brought up in film last night, was that it's not muscle memory yet. So when they get tired and it's in the fifth set and the pressure's on, they're feeling like their body can't just take over and do it, right? It's too much. It's a lot going on. So we have to get to the point where, it's like, hey, we've been here before. Now 3 of those, we've gone 5. So yeah. So I feel like we're going to be a little bit better if we end up going 5 this week. And possibly, this could happen all season, right? So.
Coach, these are obviously there's no easy games in the CC2A. This is a really tough volleyball conference.
Yeah.
The opponents you play this week are both 0-4, and despite it being a really good conference, these are games that probably you would like to see your team do well in and succeed. Come home with some wins to try and bump some spots up in the standings. Does the team recognize that? What are you guys preaching that in practice, or is it just a volleyball conference throughout, top to bottom? Like what goes into that? Preparation?
It's a good conference, and there's a lot of good coaches here, so it doesn't matter if you're 0-4. It doesn't matter. We have to treat every opponent like the best opponent because everybody is tough, and honestly, Humboldt's been on the bottom for so long. People expect to beat us. So not only are there tough teams, but they actually play better when we're in their gym because they think they should get the win. And so we can't afford to take anybody lightly. It doesn't matter who you are.
How important is it for you as the coach of this program to kind of shake that label off of Cal Poly Humboldt volleyball?
It is probably my number one goal. It's hard being the underdog, and although sometimes you like it because you can kind of, maybe get some wins where people weren't expecting you, but in the same sentence, I want to say that we have to not have that as I guess our reputation. That we're the worst in the conference. I mean, that is definitely not true. If you look at player for player who we have on the court, we are better than a lot of the teams here. But we need to figure out how to work together to make the W's happen.
Yeah, I mean, the easiest thing to look at is just the wins and losses for the records. But outside of just purely that, what do you instill in your team as things to elevate the program itself?
Well, I mean, there's always things you can base your success off that aren't wins and losses, and it's better. It's how, like, are you getting better each week? Are you making the same mistake you made last week? Are you making that in this next match? And those small things, even just talking with Kira about, she's a very athletic setter. She is arguably the best setter in our conference, if not one of the top three. And it's just even talking about her footwork, like, what does your body look like right now? Look at those last 2 steps. What are you doing there? Just those things. And so every day in practice, everybody has one small goal that they're working toward, because otherwise it gets, crazy if you start putting massive things on the board that you're working on. But one small goal that we can work on during the day, and we take that, and if we can get that, and if we're in a game and we do that, that's success. Although the outcome might not be what you want, it's still success if you're getting better.
And just kind of looking back on it, I know it's still early in conference play, but just how has this season gone compared to your expectations for this season?
I mean, I can't tell you that yet. The season just started. My expectations are that we get better every day in the gym, and along the way we pick up some wins. I know that our team as a goal wants to make the CCAA conference championship. In order to do that, you need to be top 6. It's early, but in a few more weeks, we're not going to be saying it's early anymore. So this week is pivotal for us. And I mean, I feel that, and the players feel that, because how everybody else rates success is by the W's.
Great. Thanks, Coach, and good luck this week.
Thank you.